All right, a lot of people have been asking me to update my Professor X Saga Gear Tier 20 recommendations because there's been some new teams added to the game, and people are absolutely going into the Professor X Saga and getting added value out of other characters. Some of these I am not going to suggest, like Duelim is saying that he used Shield Trooper in Global Hero, and he's got proof of it here. My understanding is that this took him over 200 attempts. So I don't think that's going to be for the faint of heart. Yes, Shield Trooper is only one piece, but there's little to no value outside of the saga in using Shield Trooper. So that's a suggestion I'm not going to recommend. But the biggest thing that people are talking about is using the MCU Fantastic Four. So I thought this was an excellent comment right here. Trevor, I'm trying to spread the word to help people's resource management. I took Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic into the Professor X, Cosmic Hero with Odin, Lilandra, and Kahori. And I have some other suggestions even for Kahori. Now, the problem with some of these ideas is that it's bio. And so there is some alterations to account for that, because at the end of the day, you kind of want to go into this with a even mix of, let's say, Mystic or bio, because you're going to manage your resources, or else you're going to get stuck missing pieces if you use too much of one over the other. So largely pivoting to this MCU Fantastic Four is again about managing the amount of bio. So let's start at the beginning of the list, and then the first part we're going to talk about is city, and there are a couple suggestions here. The team that I used when I went through it was as shown here on the screen. A lot of people are using Hip Monkey, and Hip Monkey can substitute for Daredevil Modern or Oath. It's one way of doing it. Now, some people use Big Time Spider-Man over Daredevil Modern, and so that was Duelim. Again, I don't know if I suggest that. The problem I have with that suggestion is that Daredevil Modern is a post-Ares character, where Big Time Spider-Man is a pre-Ares. And I think that when going through this list, I'm going to lean towards suggestions that are going to add value after you have finished the saga. There always will be cases of taking inexpensive characters to get you through it quicker, but after the saga is over, those characters may not be as useful. So in general, in the history of Dark Dimensions, quality over efficiency seems to be the better long-term play by picking quality characters that you'll use after the fact. So if you want to put in Hip Monkey, you can do that and replace Oath and or Daredevil Modern. This will be a little bit more challenging. Using Oath and using a 4-piece Vigilante will make the gameplay significantly easier. Now, a lot of people were telling me that they used Zombie Juggernaut instead of Omega Red of Phoenix Force. The problem with that is Zombie Juggernaut is bio, and we're trying to reduce the amount of bio characters so that they can be used on the new MCU Fantastic Four team. Most people have told me that they had better results with Lady Deathstrike, and mostly have replaced Sentinel. Other thing it's worth noting is that Lady Deathstrike is a lower number of pieces. She has 2 sets as opposed to the 3 sets on Sentinel. So now we're getting into the first area where there's a little bit more flexibility. Now, the 2 characters here on this list that are bio are going to be Gladiator and Gore. And I'm going to say that Shadow King, Null, and in-game Thanos are kind of no-brainers for this section, and I think they're going to have longer-term value. What's happening right now is Annihilators have been dominant, and I do think they're going to be continue being good as we go through this. But the MCU Fantastic Four is kind of taking their place, right? And so a lot of people have substituted out Gladiator and Gore for some of the curse. Now, there's some caution with that. We're talking about Satana and Helverine. I've been hearing that if you substitute out both, you take out Gladiator and Gore and put Satana and Helverine, if you have lower stars, you're going to struggle. And the suggestion I've been hearing is only do one of them, not both of them. Now, for me personally, I'm not a big fan of the cursed team. I don't really like them outside of Crucible. In fact, I dislike them very much outside of Crucible. I think they're good in Crucible for sure. And if you're willing to go the ultra quality route, my suggestion would be go a little bit heavier on resources, and that would be to remove Gladiator and use Mephisto. Mephisto is going to have longer use than Gladiator or Gore. Very good character, but he's expensive. He requires 5 sets of pieces. He's got 5, as opposed to like 3. And so by doing that, you're going to have better long-term value. I feel like I got Professor X, and then I start going through and like, who should I take up now? Well, Mephisto is one of those characters. I feel like there's a good chance that you're going to be taking Mephisto to gear tier 20 anyways, like once you start building up some resources. And so if I were doing it today, my suggestion would be to not do Gladiator and to do Mephisto. Now, this is where we got some of the suggestions. Like I was saying earlier in the video, Duelam sent me a message saying that he used Sealed Trooper here, and here's a screenshot. The problem with Sealed Trooper is I don't see there any use after this is over, and so basically talking about putting in Shield Trooper instead of Jean Grey, that took him 200 attempts, and I don't know how long it took to get 200 attempts. I mean, hours. I don't think that's great. This by far was the most challenging node. This took many attempts for this to work. A lot of people are substituting out Jean Grey, and the suggestions I'm hearing are Hercules or Captain Sam. Now, when using Captain Sam, it's going to be a lot easier. But even with this particular comp that I used, it did require multiple attempts, and this was the hardest part by far. So let's talk about the last part right here, which is kind of the whole point of the video, Hero Cosmic. Now, the suggestion that was presented to me at the beginning of the video was right here. Trevor, I'm trying to spread the word to help people's resource management. I took Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic into the Professor X Cosmic Hero with Odin, Lilandra, and Kahori, and it was fine. Yes, it's just extra bio. So the way that I view this is that Lilandra you have to use. She's a requirement. And Odin is the second best character of the game outside of Professor X. And if you're going through this, you're trying to get Professor X. So Odin's going to be your best character in your roster. Now, the other 3 slots back there are up for grabs. In general, the 2 there of Lilandra and Odin are going to carry you through the node. And people are already reporting that they're not having to use Starjammers, and instead they're substituting in the Fantastic Four. Now, nobody's done this yet because Mr. Franklin Richards is not in the game, but I'm thinking you can just go with the 3-piece of the MCU Fantastic Four. The other one that people are substituting out instead of Kahori is Quasar. I think Quasar is very good. People are just getting 7 yellows on Quasar today, and Quasar is just knock it out of the park. As we get more and more stars on him, he just seems to be getting better and better. We don't have the 7th red, we don't have any diamonds, and I'm expecting him to just be so good as we go forward. And he's adding value outside of his primary game mode, which is Alliance War. So here in this section, you have, I think, 4 options in addition to the ones shown here on the screen, which would be any of the Starjammers and Kahori, or the Fantastic Four MCU, and or Quasar. So that is my current recommendations for a Professor X Saga. Use the planner on the website. And the reason why you want to use the planner on the website is that when you're in this and you load it up, it's going to give you this total materials required. And then it also gives you a layout of where the resources are coming for. Bio uniques, mutant uniques, mystic, so on and so on. So when you start creating your planner, this is going to pull the information from your roster, and it's going to be an easier time going through it if there's a equal distribution of resources, because when you're pulling orbs, it's going to come in randomly, and then you kind of have to fill the gaps in with intel and purchasing the gear tier 20 pieces in the intel store. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If there's anything that you did that you like better than what I suggested here in this video, put it down in the comment section. Bye for now.